Welcome to the Smart Weight Loss Coaching Podcast. I'm Dr. Lisa Oldson, a board-certified weight loss medicine specialist and certified life coach. In this podcast, I'll share fresh insights and effective techniques for incorporating mindset, habit change, and proven science into your life. Are you ready to achieve sustainable weight loss, wellness, and longevity? Then let's jump in and lose weight the smart way. Welcome back. In my field, we have a saying, the best diet is the one you can stick to, which highlights a huge mistake many people make when trying to lose weight. If you make a drastic change from what you usually eat, it's probably going to be hard for that change to last. Instead, I found it far more helpful to look at where people are at today with their food and start modifying their routine over time. I do that by asking them to track, and then I get a sense of their typical breakfast, lunch, dinner, and common snacks. Once I understand the kinds of foods and drinks a person likes, I generally start with two interventions. The first is to rethink their drink, eliminating sugar-sweetened beverages, sodas, juices, fancy coffee drinks, and reducing alcohol. Occasionally, I meet an adult who's still drinking milk with every meal. But rethinking your drink is a topic for another episode. The other thing I like to do with a food tracker is to find ways to add fiber, which is an easy hack you can start doing for yourself today. And it turns out fiber might be one of the most underrated tools we have, not just for weight loss, but for your health. As I was coming through the latest research on fiber, I was struck by the complexity of the language used to describe it. There's soluble fiber, insoluble fiber, viscous and non-viscous fiber, fermentable and non-fermentable, prebiotic fiber, and resistant starch. In my opinion, it's not necessary for any of us to know that viscous fiber is found in oatmeal and beans, while fermented fiber is also found in beans as well as lentils, chickpeas, vegetables, fruits, peanuts, soy, and peas, or that beans and lentils also contain resistant starches. In fact, many of these health foods have more than one type of fiber. It's enough to know that these are all healthy foods that are rich in fiber and that are fantastic for your health. Let's look at some numbers because they're pretty striking. Most health organizations recommend somewhere between 25 and 38 grams of fiber per day, depending on your age and gender. But here in the U.S., the average adult is getting around 15 to 17 grams per day. That means the vast majority of us, somewhere around 94% of Americans, aren't even hitting the minimum. So if you're someone who's never really thought about fiber, you're not alone. Most people haven't. In my experience reviewing food trackers, many people who consider themselves healthy eaters are still surprised to learn that they're only getting around 20 grams of fiber per day, unless they're regularly eating lots of beans, lentils, oats, berries, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Keeping a food diary and entering that information into an AI tool to get your average daily fiber total is a great place to start. That's what I call a fiber audit. Now, why exactly does fiber matter? Let's start with weight, since that's often what brings people to this podcast in the first place. There's good research showing that simply adding more fiber to your diet, even without intentionally cutting calories, is associated with modest weight loss. We're not talking about a drastic transformation here, but when researchers looked at studies where people increased their fiber, they found small but real reductions in body weight, body mass index or BMI, and also waist size or waist circumference. And when fiber was added alongside a calorie-reduced diet, those numbers got even better. One study I love citing is the Pounds Lost trial, which was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2009. It followed people on different calorie-restricted diets in order to determine which was superior for weight loss, low fat, low carb, or high protein. It turns out no particular target for the percent of fat, carbs, or proteins was better for weight loss. What they did find was that fiber intake was actually the single biggest predictor of how much weight people lost, regardless of the percent protein, fat, or carbs in their plan. People who ate more fiber also stuck with their plan better. That part is huge. We talk all the time on this podcast about how the best plan is the one you can actually sustain, and fiber seems to help with exactly that. Just a side note before we get back to fiber, because that pounds lost study is so interesting. Here's something that actually pushed me to start my Weight Loss Strategy Lab online course. Attendance at group counseling sessions during the study was strongly associated with weight loss. My program functions more like an online course than an in-person group counseling session, but the learning from this and other studies is that when people have weekly meetings of some sort with education and support around health and weight loss, they do better. Better attendance equals more weight loss. I find the same to be true in my program. Besides the two biggest predictors, fiber and attendance at group sessions, some other strategies seen in those who lost the most weight include greater physical activity, better sleep, and lower ultra-processed food consumption, none of which should surprise any of you. So how does fiber actually help with weight loss? In a few different ways. Fiber takes up space in your stomach and slows down how quickly food moves through your digestive system, which helps you feel full longer, similar to the GLP-1 medications. Fiber also helps blunt the spike in blood sugar you get after a meal, so you're not riding that roller coaster of a sugar high, followed by a crash and explosive hunger. That's one way that fiber lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes. In one study of 107,000 people, those with the highest fiber intake had a 41% lower risk of type 2 diabetes. That makes me want to go eat an apple right now. Fiber stimulates your fullness hormones, including your own natural GLP-1, as well as the satiety hormones, PYY and cholecystokinin. And fiber feeds the bacteria in your gut, which produce compounds that signal your brain that you're satisfied, you've had enough. But here's the thing, if weight loss were the only benefit of fiber, I'd probably still do an episode on it, but I wouldn't be quite this excited. I'm telling you, your weight loss might be the least interesting thing that fiber can do for you. Let's talk about your heart health, cancer risk, and your overall lifespan, because this is where the fiber research gets really compelling. There's a meta-analysis published in The Lancet looking at 135 million person-years of data that found people who ate the most fiber had somewhere between a 15 and 30% lower risk of dying from any cause, including a lower risk of dying from heart disease, having a heart attack, having a stroke, or developing type 2 diabetes when compared to people who ate the least amount of fiber. Let that sink in for a second. We're talking about double-digit percentage reductions in some of the biggest health threats we face, just based on how much fiber people were eating. And more recent research backs this up. A 2024 meta-analysis following over 3.5 million people found that higher fiber intake was linked to a 23% reduction in death from any cause, a 26% reduction in cardiovascular deaths, and a 22% reduction in cancer deaths. Interestingly, fiber from nuts and seeds specifically was linked to a 43% reduction in cardiovascular death, which is good news for me because for the most part, I eat nuts and seeds every single day. I hope you do too. Get this. You've probably heard of medications called statins, right? They're used to lower cholesterol in order to reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. Would you like to know how effective statins are as primary prevention of death from cardiovascular disease? 9%. Meaning, if you've never had a heart attack or stroke and you start taking a statin to prevent the risk of death from cardiovascular disease, you'll lower that risk by 9%. If you eat nuts and seeds, you'll reduce your risk of cardiovascular death by 43%. I'm not telling you not to take a statin. Please listen to your primary care doctor or your cardiologist. But I am telling you that there's a reason to think of food as medicine, preventive medicine. Then there's cancer. One of the most comprehensive reviews we have, which pooled data from over 17 million people, found strong evidence linking higher fiber intake to lower rates of pancreatic cancer. There was also highly suggestive evidence, which is not the same as conclusive proof, for lower rates of ovarian cancer in those with high fiber diets. For colorectal cancer specifically, the evidence is particularly compelling. Higher fiber intake from whole foods, especially cereal fiber, is linked to lower colorectal cancer risk. We're not talking about Cocoa Puffs here. When I talk about cereal fiber, I'm thinking about steel-cut oats. In case you're wondering, fiber supplements don't provide the same protection as fiber from actual food, which may be the most actionable takeaway from this whole episode. Almost all of this research is about fiber from food. Vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, nuts, edamame, lentils, and seeds. When researchers have tried to isolate fiber and give it to people as a supplement alone, the results are much less impressive. And for some outcomes, like colon polyps, supplements alone don't have the same protective effect that food does. So this isn't really about finding the right powder or pill to add to your routine. It's about the actual foods you're eating. And honestly, I always think that's good news because it means there's no special product you need to buy. You probably already have fiber-rich foods in your kitchen right now. Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor. And then when we come back, I'll share some simple, doable ways to start increasing your fiber without overhauling your whole diet. Ha! Just kidding. It's still me, Dr. Lisa Oldson, physician and founder of the new Weight Loss Strategy Lab. While the Smart Weight Loss Coaching Program essence stays the same, our new name better reflects what we actually do together in the program. Beyond coaching at the Weight Loss Strategy Lab, we teach, experiment, reflect, and explore the latest science around weight loss, longevity, habit change, and health. I bring all of this to my live weekly strategy sessions on Zoom alongside our signature courses that you can access at your convenience within the program. The biggest shift is in mindset. In the Strategy Lab, we approach weight loss like scientists, not like judges. When you get off track, and we all do, there's no judgment. Instead, we help you dissect what happened, find the learning, and create a better hypothesis for next time. For now, you can still find the Weight Loss Strategy Lab men's and women's programs at our original site, smartweightlosscoaching.com. And we're back. So if you're thinking, I'm clearly not getting enough fiber, but where do I even start? Here's some good news. You don't need a complete diet overhaul. Just a few small additions can move the needle. First, think about breakfast. A bowl of oatmeal, especially steel-cut oats, with some fruit, nuts, or chia seeds on top is an easy way to start your day with plenty of fiber. Even something as simple as adding berries to whatever you're already eating gives you a boost. Second, beans and legumes are some of the highest fiber foods you can eat, and they're incredibly versatile. Adding a half cup of black beans, lentils, or chickpeas to a salad, a soup, or even alongside your dinner is an easy add. I often tell my clients, when in doubt, throw some beans in it. Third, don't peel your produce when you don't have to. The skin on an apple or a pear contains a meaningful amount of fiber and other nutrients. Obviously, this isn't a hard rule, but it's kind of a free upgrade when it makes sense. Fourth, swap when you can. Choosing whole grain bread instead of white, brown rice instead of white rice, or whole wheat pasta instead of regular pasta are all small swaps that add up over the course of a week. Personally, I swap out Barilla Plus protein pasta in the yellow box because that's made with chickpea flour and lentil flour. And no, I am not a spokesperson for Barilla. I just like that pasta. And finally, Snack smart. Instead of reaching for something that's mostly sugar and refined carbs, a piece of fruit, some raw vegetables with hummus, edamame, or a small handful of nuts gives you a fiber boost that will easily carry you through until your next meal. One word of caution: if you've been eating a lower fiber diet and you suddenly try to eat 30 grams a day, your gut might protest a little. Think bloating or gas. Sorry, that's not awkward for me to talk about, but it might feel awkward for you if you weren't expecting it. So increase your fiber gradually over a week or two and make sure you're drinking enough water as you do. Your gut bacteria need a little time to adjust, but they will. The bottom line here is this: fiber isn't flashy, it's not the latest trend, and there's no influencer selling you a fiber-based transformation program. But the research is remarkably consistent. More fiber from real food is linked to a healthier weight, a healthier heart, a lower risk of certain cancers, and quite possibly a longer life, longer health span. And unlike a lot of things in life, this one doesn't require willpower or a complicated strategy. It's just about what you add to your plate, which is one of my favorite ways to think about lasting nutritional change. All right, it's MBA time, my friends. Time to plan your next best action. If you want to take one small step after listening today, here's my suggestion. Pick one meal today, just one, and add some fiber to it. A handful of berries on your yogurt, beans in your lunch salad, or an apple as your afternoon snack. That's it. Don't worry about hitting 30 grams today. Just add one thing. Small, consistent additions are exactly how lasting habits get built, and your gut, your heart, and your future self will thank you. Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like more support during your smart weight loss journey, check out our group coaching program at smartweightlosscoaching.com. Until next time, stay well and stay smart.